big story for us on the channel and for corporate India is the merger of Sterlite Industries and Sesa. Let's take that story forward with Mr. Vallabh Bansali, Chairman of Enam Securities. Mr. Bansali, morning. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Bansali, the proposed restructuring of Sesa and Sterlite Industries is a very clean and a strong restructuring exercise which will take care of a lot of long-term structural issues. After the restructuring, to your mind, Mr. Bansali, will Sterlite Industries as a stock get re-rated?
I think there is a good chance. This is one of the most complicated restructuring exercises taken in the country. But as you rightly said, they have looked at the big picture and made a bold move. And there's a good chance, of course, they have some problems to solve, particularly relating to VAL. But it's a question of conjecture as to when it gets solved.
Mr. Bansali, good morning. The only concern on the street seems to be with Sesa and what happens to the shareholders, because there seems to be a minor negative due to the swap ratio which has been announced. Because some analysts believe that Sesa may see some negative reaction due to the high debt concerns. Would you agree with the same?
Well, as I said, it's a very complicated structure, very complicated exercise where, transfers of debt, transfer of companies, valuing multiple assets has all gone into it. But there are large parts of the exercise which seem completely sensible and fair. But I may not be able to express an opinion on one particular aspect because I haven't studied it that deeply. So I would say that in the short term there could be negative reactions. But I think from an exercise point of view, from every company's point of view, this seems to be a good job.
Mr. Bansali, globally and locally, most of the holding companies always trade at a discount to their fair value. Now that Sesa Sterlite is a holding company, do you think it will trade at a holding company discount?
I think compared to the underlying assets, it is a possibility. But we saw Vedanta trade at a premium for a very long time. We have also seen increasing acceptance of holding company structures, particularly in telecom and some other areas. So while I agree with you generally that they do trade at discount to underlying values, how much discount is a big question. At this point of time, as we all know, the Sterlite are trading at a big discount to underlying assets.
Right. Mr. Bansali, what will be the major growth drivers for Sesa Sterlite according to you? Because zinc and oil businesses are the only strong businesses for the group right now.
I think Kane, Sesa and VAL, all three of them will provide big opportunities. I think this whole country is waiting for more clarity on mining policy. Along with land policy, mining policy is a big other area. As and when that gets sorted out, there should be, enormous scope for growth.
Why do you think, Mr. Bansali, this restructuring exercise will create value for long-term shareholders? Because the new entity will also be inheriting a lot of debt.
But if one sees that, they have built a valuable asset in VAL, I think they wanted to move a lot speedily on the Sesa expansion. But the export policy or, taxing of exports and events like that have held them back. One does think that if India is to progress, we will have to create greater clarity on these areas. The other thing is that Sterlite has come a long way and has done things that most people could not imagine they would do. I don't think the sense of enterprise is going to take a back seat. If there are challenges, I am sure that they will, overcome them. But obviously, it's my faith, and the street may see otherwise.
Mr. Bansali, if we were to consider the three major companies involved, that's Sesa, Sterlite as well as Kane, which shareholders do you think, of which company that is, would benefit the most from this merger?
Well, it's difficult to, separate these companies in that manner, but I would think that Sterlite shareholders, Sterlite was half holding company, half operating company. Now at least the path for Sterlite is a lot more complete. The company that comes uppermost in my mind is Sterlite.
It's conjecture to discuss, Mr. Bansali, what happens next now. But what is the future of Vedanta? Do you think eventually Sterlite Sesa or Sesa Sterlite will be merged into Vedanta? That restructuring makes perfect sense.
I think one will have to see, how things turn out. As I said, there are, some regulatory issues, there are some policy issues, and then there indeed will be commercial issues. But integrating cash flows is always a desire of companies. But we have minority shareholders and others involved. As clarity emerges, I think those options should be clear.
Mr. Bansali, I'll take the liberty of asking you a market-specific question because this is the first interaction in this calendar year. Are you a bit surprised with the pace of the market rally? We are up 21% for this calendar year.
Not at all. I think when people start seeing positive changes after being in the down and gloom for a long period of time, people don't want to be left out. So I think I'm not at all surprised at the rally. Of course, market is showing consolidation trend. So that's how it evens out.
Mr. Bansali, but the point being that will it continue to be a good year for the Indian equities, and how much growth or return can we envisage for 2012 from benchmark Sensex?
I think this will be largely driven by, what sort of policy changes the country is able to see. I think supply side issues have been bogging us down for a long time. I think market has discounted some expectation on that account. And I'm hopeful that, some things will happen.
Mr. Bansali, last time when I interacted with you was in the month of November, and that time you flagged two concerns, policy paralysis and growth without governance. Do you think now some of those issues are getting sorted out?
I think we are seeing a very concerted effort on the part of the government, despite, their political issues, to, come up with various reforms and various moves. I think there's been a number of initiatives. And I think Economic Times carried this wonderful article on PMO at work. I quite believe that there is a very, very concerted effort to break that policy logjam.
Mr. Bansali, it's that time of the year where markets always focus on union budget. Budget is due on 16th of March. Do you think this time around budget will be a game changer for markets?
Well, I don't want to make any conjecture about the budget. Budget is one of the many, many policy events in the calendar. So I don't write. I think the time that budgets alone mattered a lot, those times have gone. So it could be inside the budget, outside the budget. I think it doesn't matter.